Well, the Jews and the Arabs are at it again in Israel. I know that the U.S. media, particularly Fox, is going to be very upset and oh so sympathetic. And I know that we all in America, this is our fight, because Israel is our greatest ally, and we must never turn our backs on our friends. And we must do everything we can to help them repel this invasion from outsiders. Except the problem for Israel is that this is not an outside invasion. This is Israel attacking itself. Israel has made it clear that Gaza and the West Bank are as much a part of Israel as any other territory within their borders. Sure, they're legally treated differently, but Israel is not going to recognize these areas as either independent or allow them to be administered by another country such as Jordan or Egypt ever again. Therefore, the people attacking the Israeli villages and trying to capture weapons from the IDF and launching rockets into Tel Aviv, these are Israel's own people. They've taken ownership of them, whether they want to or not. Or wait, what am I saying? Whether they want to admit it or not. And so this is an internal conflict. And frankly, based on what's been going on in Ukraine, I don't see how taking sides in internal conflicts in other countries is smart or even possible. You see, long before Ukraine was invaded by the Ruskies, there was an internal conflict within Ukraine. And the U.S. picked a side in that conflict. They had their allies within Ukraine who they wanted to see come to power. That led to uprisings on the part of the losing side, the side that the U.S. was not allied with, and eventually Russia intervened on their behalf. And so now in Israel, we are seeing, as we have so many times in Israel, a very similar situation. The U.S. is allied with the Jews in Israel, and the Arabs are the other faction. Yes, certain Arabs have official Israeli citizenship and are allowed to vote. But Israel makes sure that their numbers are kept in check so that they do not amass any significant political influence. And so you end up with a significant number of people. I believe it's in the millions, like 2 million. Perhaps, is it 2 million just in Gaza alone? I can't remember the population numbers. I haven't seen updated figures in a long time. But if Gaza and the West Bank, if all those people, because those territories want to be claimed by Israel and have been controlled by Israel for pretty sure as long as I've been alive, longer than that, Israel would not have like an 80% supermajority of Jewish citizens. And that's a problem for Israel because they want to be a nation state. But demographically, the territory that they claim to be under the administration of their nation state is very much bi-ethnic, I guess you could say. I mean, it's tough because the whole idea of Jewish ethnicity is very confusing, especially when you have lily white people and you have black people that are both supposedly the same ethnicity. It just gets a little confusing. Ethiopians, Ashkenazis, they're all the same, right? So I'll just split it into Jews and non-Jews, because of course you don't just have Arabs, you also have the Bedouins, who are a very small minority from what I recall. And then within the Arabs, you have Muslims and Christians mostly, but there's probably a couple of other groups like like Baha'i or something? Isn't that an Arab religion, or is that from Iran? Anyway, it's easier. Just group of Jews and non-Jews, because that's what Israel is concerned about. They are concerned about maintaining a Jewish supermajority for the Jewish state. This is something that they consider to be a part of their national security and their identity. And you can understand why they wouldn't want to lose that. They've worked long and hard to try and maintain that and to achieve it in the first place. And they did it very quickly, considering they only did it within a few decades initially. And they have tried to import as many Jewish people from around the world, get the rest of the world, all the Jews, to move to Israel, as many as they can, so that they can outnumber the non-Jews within their borders, while at the same time trying to expand their territory, because, well, it is a pretty cramped area. But then you run into the issue of, they can't really ethnically cleanse all of the non-Jews because, well, where do they have to go? They were able to push them into Gaza and the West Bank, but the West Bank is too big, so, Israel wants to, start building towns there because there's a lot of real estate there. There's a lot of land. And so they got to keep pushing people into smaller and smaller areas. And, it's not exactly like they have the greatest economic opportunities, considering that they are heavily restricted when it comes to international trade. There's, basically under sanction by Israel. They have no real government of their own. There's sort of like a pseudo-collaborationist state, sort of Bantustan regime in both Gaza and the West Bank. Like, they had one election in, I think, 2005 or something, and ever since then, Israel has recognized whoever won the 2005 election or something as the governments of both of these countries, or not countries, these little tiny areas. And so Hamas has been recognized by Israel as the government of Gaza for who knows how long. What I'm trying to get at here is that imagine yourself being born into a place like Gaza, or I don't know, what's a West Bank city, Bethlehem or Ramallah. You're born into one of these places. You have essentially no opportunity. You have no rights. At any time you can be evicted from your home by the government. And there's constantly bombs flying back and forth between where you live and the rulers over on the other side of the fence. And so really, if you grow up in that environment, what else do you have to do with your life other than fight? It's not like you can really leave. And so Israel has put itself and these people, who shall remain nameless, in an impossible position. They both basically have no choice, unless, Israel were to just give up, which Israel can't do, or wouldn't do, because they've been pursuing the same policy for much longer than I've been alive. I just don't see that changing anytime soon. It doesn't cost them enough to where they would have to change that. It's a perpetually terrible situation. But if you're one of these people who is a non-citizen living in these territories that are both apart while being fenced off, a part of and fenced off from Israel, you don't really have anything else you have no other recourse. You can't, vote for a better government. You can't secede from Israel. You can't tell the Israelis, hey, we don't want any part of this anymore. We want to make our own rules. The only thing these people have to do is fight and fight and fight. Because if they sit by and do nothing, what has been proven time and time again is that the Israelis will just push them into a tighter and tighter area. They will evict them from their homes. They will, seize their farmland and build suburbs. I find it very strange. The American right very strongly believes in property rights, but also very strongly believes in the Israeli settlement policy. It's very strange. I mean, you would think that the American right, which still talks about the plight of the kulaks, would sympathize with these humble, very small plot farmers, or even just people who own small lots that their houses are built on, having their land seized and redeveloped into gleaming plastic suburbs. And so I guess to wrap things up, no, I do not stand with Israel, as we are going to be commanded to do so this weekend, I'm sure. All over, people are going to be tweeting their hashtag I stand with Israel and putting on their I stand with Israel bumper stickers, courtesy of AIPAC or whatever other organization, the ADL. But I also am not comfortable standing with the Palestinians either. Oh, there I said it, the name which shall not be named. Because, even though I see that there is, I understand from a intellectual standpoint, or from an academic standpoint, I should say, the obvious result of everything that has happened is going to amount to a terrorist uprising. This is how you create a terrorist movement. All of the building blocks are there, and so I'm not surprised that there's a lot of terror attacks launched against the Israeli side, against the Jewish side, I should say. But at the same time, never really going to be fond of terrorism or even think that it's okay, because it is just another act of war. And it is often, against the civilian population. And yes, I'm sure the Palestinian side would say, well, yeah, what the Israelis do is against our civilians all the time. Yes, I understand that. Don't like it when they do it either. I don't like when anybody does the terrorism. Whether it's, America blowing up a village because they heard a rumor that one guy living on the edge of town was a fan of bin Laden or something, and so they blow up the entire village. Not a fan of that. Not a fan when the Israelis do it either. And I'm not a fan if the Palestinians want to strap a bomb to their chest and go march through a parade and blow up a bunch of people. I don't think it's good when they blindly launch thousands of rockets, at a city. But the bottom line is neither side is going to be getting sympathy from the other. They both have reasons to hate each other. And I'm sure if I lived there, I would be very opinionated in favor of my side over the other. You have every reason to be. And so that, to me, is every reason why the U.S. should have absolutely nothing to do with this hellhole known as the Holy Land. Nothing but bad things are going to go on here, and continuing to just feed each side weapons, a la Ukraine, does not produce better results. It produces worse results. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.